Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live coverage of the concerts that we get. I've been posting interviews on the daily, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check those out if you're new to the channel. If you are new, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching this. Hopefully, you get some good information out of this record, because I try to do all of these as thorough as possible. I have 3 other reviews I hope to get done for the month of January. I know we're into February now at this point, but I definitely want to finish that month out strong and get into some other ones. I'll be doing a review of the newest Polaris record, so you can keep your eyes peeled for that. But tonight we're going to be talking about Loathe's newest record, I Let It In and It Took Everything. So, I've been a big fan of this band for a very long time. I found out about them with their first LP, which is The Cold Sun, which was released in 2017. I did a review of their split with Holding Absence in 2018, This As One, which was also phenomenal. Check that out if you're interested, and if you haven't checked out that split, go give that a listen. But I had found out about them before that. I think Wage War had taken them on tour back in 2018. It may have been 2018 or 2017. I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure it's 2018, towards the end of 2018, and they were phenomenal live. If you guys are watching this, I hope you guys hit the United States again, because I am so excited to check out these songs live, and I'm sure the UK fan base has had the opportunity to see you guys live and do those. So excited to see them come over. I also want to give a massive shout out to Adam Splitter, PR, and Secret Service Publicity Group. They sent me this record early, so thank you guys for the early copy. So I'm going to go through each track, give you my thoughts and opinions on it, go through some pros and cons, and then fish out with an overall rating. So the first track is called Theme. This is very much an intro track. It feels along the lines of like a movie or like music trailer. It like, in terms of like the musicality of it, it feels almost like a score in a way, and it's just really beautiful, ambient. I love how it opens up the record, and I also feel like it kind of gives you an idea of this sort of melodicness that they're able to ascertain in a record like this. They have a few different interludes throughout this, and like outerludes and outros on this record, and I really feel like it ties the songs together. I kind of attribute it a lot to how Silent Planet does a lot of their records and constructing tracks. You know, while it may seem like it is a 14-track album, it's more or less like, you know, an 11-track record with the obvious intro, interlude, and outerlude tracks. So we're going to move into track number 2, the first, I guess, real track, if you want to say, and that is Aggressive Evolution. This is one of the singles that they had released. I believe this was the first one. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I also know that they had released, actually I know it's not the first one. I think Gourd and New Faces in the Dark, I think, were the 2 singles, but again, could be miscommunicated. I know they definitely had many singles out. But anyway, getting back to the track, this one just kicks it right off the bat. I really dig the guitar laden effects chain that they have going on at the intro of this song. It has just this real, just aggressive tonality to it, and it almost feels like borderline almost mathcore in certain aspects. I think when I think of the sounds that come from this band, I think a lot of Dillinger Escape Plan. I know they get compared to Deftones a lot, and I feel like that comparison, while I'm sure they're tired of hearing it, I feel like it accurately assimilates how their sound is in comparison to Deftones. Maybe not 100%, but you can tell that it was a massive influence on them. But this track has a really distinct groove to it. I love that they utilize just kind of their baritone guitar range. When I had seen them live, I was like, it just didn't, all the things didn't add up, and then I had to look it up and I knew that they were baritone guitars, and that was very tight. And I just feel like throughout this entire record they utilized that in just a really unique way. But I think the counterbalance of screaming and singing from Kadeem is really solid. I know that their other guitar players, Eric does cleans as well, so I'm not entirely sure where his cleans begin and Kadeem stops, but I think both of them as clean vocalists are very good. I know in older material Eric was primarily the clean vocalist, but I know that Kadeem has kind of filled or kind of stepped into that role as well, along with the screaming. I love the breakdown at around the 3 minutes and 8 second mark to the end. Super clean stuff. This track is already out, and if you haven't listened to it already, I highly recommend going to do so. So we're going to move into track number 3, which is Broken Vision Rhythm. This one is very cool because it leads in from Aggressive Evolution. I just feel like the transition between those two songs was really just masterfully done, and it just feels tight. It doesn't feel like it was just like, okay, let me just bleed into this track super easily. It just feels natural. Everything works out very well. I love the aggressive, dissonant tonality. I feel like it's pulled out even more so in a track like this, as opposed to maybe Aggressive Evolution so far. The riffs in this track, super creative. I really had a great time kind of like digesting all of the really interesting licks, the riffs, all that sort of stuff. I think they do a fantastic job, and it doesn't feel like they really repeat anything other than maybe like a breakdown in some cases, but even still, I think they keep it pretty fresh. I love Sean in this track, their drummer. I think he is super underrated in this track in particular, just from his transition from kind of like more blast beat sort of stuff to like more like rhythmic, more expansive like drum parts. I think drum fills, things of that nature. I think he really does a great job of kind of, you know, spreading the balance of those two things and making it really unique. This is chaotic in every sense of the word possible, but I think it's chaotic in a good way. They really just know how to bring the heavy in a track like this. It's definitely one of the heavier tracks off the record that I hope you guys get the chance to check out when the record comes out on Friday. So we're going to move into track number 4, which is Two-Way Mirror. This is another single that had been released, and I think comparatively to the past 3 tracks, if we're being realistic, I think that it's just a complete 180. Like when you're listening to it in like the context of a record, obviously this is a single, so you could just hear it off the rip. But in the context of the record, it is so weird, but in like the best way possible, because you don't get tired of, you know, the 2 heavier tracks, and then you're like, oh my god, are they going to do the same thing for track number 4? Are they going to do the same thing for track number 5? Yada, yada, yada. And I really feel like this track breaks up that sort of heavy kind of, I wouldn't say bloat, that sounds like a terrible thing, but because it is, but I think that it just does a way of just being like a musical palette cleanser into the next sort of set of songs. This one's super melodic. I think it pulls a lot from shoegaze, like indie, kind of rock vibes, and they do a fantastic job of that. I feel like, again, Kadeem and Eric's clean vocals are something that really shine in a track like this, and obviously I would assume most of you have heard that song at this point, and it is just really beautiful, ethereal. It's a little bit heavy, but not in like an aggressive way. It's heavy in just kind of a melodic and beautiful way, and I think they really created a beautiful kind of landscape and atmosphere effect going on in a track like this. It really utilizes their range. It shows off their skill as a band, and it was one that when I had originally listened to it and I knew how the band sounded, this just feels like complete change of thought, but in the same way it feels kind of reminiscent of what they do. And I just like that in future tracks they kind of combine those sorts of two ideologies into one track. So we're gonna move into track number 5, which is 451 Days. This is an interlude. I think it is a nice continuation of Two-Way Mirror. It feels like, you know, the sort of atmospheric and landscaping or landscape that they created in Two-Way Mirror, and which I had talked about just recently. I think it furthers that sort of atmospheric idea a little bit longer, and I think that it just feels like, again, a continuation of that. So that's awesome. Not too much else to speak on, but I enjoyed that one as well. So we're going to move into track number 6, which is New Faces in the Dark. This one is one of the singles as well. As I keep mentioning, they did a lot of single releases. But this one is super heavy out the gate. Obviously, it's out. You have heard it already. Like I said, I would assume that you've heard it, and if you haven't, go listen to it. But this one is just awesome. I like that they incorporated a little bit more ambience in a track like this, but I think overall this is just a brutal, just balls to the wall heavy track. I think Kadim's screams are just absolutely brutal, and I think just to kind of match that sort of energy, their guitar players just absolutely rip it with some really just gnarly guitar riffs. I love just the reprieve in the chorus where there's a little bit of clean vocals, but overall after that it basically just goes straight back to heavy music, which is totally tight. And I love the part from the 2 minutes and 26-second mark to the end. That just, my god, it just feels like a truck just running into you, man. Like, it is ridiculous. I love that ending, and I think it just basically summarizes how I feel about this track, is like just getting run over by a big 16-wheeler and not being able to feel a thing afterwards. So we're gonna move it into track number 7, which is Red Room. I would kind of consider this to be an interlude in some sense, but I also just feel like it's just one of those tracks that was just like, let's just do something heavy, who gives a shit what happens, let's just make it work. And track number 7, Red Room, it's just jaw-droppingly heavy. It definitely is reminiscent of bands like Dillinger Escape Plan, Car Bomb. It just made when I first listened to it, my jaw literally hit the floor. Like, no joke, no cap. I really, honestly and truly, my jaw hit the floor, and I had to pause my computer, like think about it for a hot second, and then come back to it, repeat the song again, and listen to it again. It was just that crazy. So the drop on this track, super heavy, despite it being a 2-minute track. I think they really kind of packed it all in, and I think it was just really well executed. So we're gonna move into track number 8, which is Screaming. This is the most recent single that they have released. I know that for a fact because I just saw it today, I believe, as of recording. And this one's really groovy. I love the swing to it. This was one that I was hoping that they were going to do a single for, because I feel like it just represents the record so well. And I'm glad that this one was the last one to be released, just because it has that heaviness of Loathe that you expect from the band, but also has that melodic side that if you like Two-Way Mirror, you'll definitely dig this track. As I had mentioned before, I think Kadim and Eric do a fantastic job of the cleans and screams. However, I feel like in a track like this, I want to continue to sing along with Kadim and Eric for the singing parts, but then I also want to just start moshing as soon as like Kadim starts screaming on this track. So overall, I think it's super catchy. I think it's extremely well executed and well arranged, and it definitely has some of the best moments on this record. Again, I'm glad that they have released this one as a single so everybody could hear this one before the record dropped, but if the record hadn't dropped and this hadn't been the last single, I would still extremely highly recommend you checking this out when the record comes out. So we're going to move into track number 9, which is It Really You? This one took me by surprise. I would say much in the same way of Two-Way Mirror. But I think I enjoyed this one just a little bit more than that one, if I'm going to be speaking on more of the melodic front of Loathe. But that keyboard synth intro just hits you in the feels, and then at the same point, those melodies are super infectious. I think the way that they conducted this one was just super well done. I love everything about this track. I think Fiesel puts a really good spin in terms of the bass lines on this track, and the acoustic guitar was a really nice addition to a track like that. But I just feel like overall this one was just a melodic gold mine for me. Again, pulls a lot from indie and kind of shoegazy sort of stuff, but it just wow, I really just can't tell you how much I enjoy this track so much. So this one has to be, I would say, pretty close to my favorite one, despite it being kind of a little bit more melodic, a little bit slower. But I think the way that they've been able to conduct the sort of slower, more melodic bass tracks, I think they've done a really great job of that. And I hope that they continue to incorporate tracks like this in future records. So we're going to move into track number 10, which is Gourd. This was one of the first singles, I believe, that came out, and it's just such, again, it's such a 180, but just kind of the opposite direction from Two-Way Mirror. Like, this one was very soft, very melodic. It definitely has more of a rock feel to it, and then you get to this track, and this is just like dark, dissonant, heavy, brutal, any other adjective you can think of or synonym you can think of to describe a track like that, I feel like would accurately nail this track on the head for sure. The tone is absolutely thick, like super thick. I love it. I think just the way that they just have that balance of melodicness and also just have that thing where they just hit, like it's such, they just conduct it in such a way, and I'm having just a hard time putting it into words, but it's just so eloquently put together, and I can't stop listening to it. It's just nonstop heavy from start to finish. A great track. So if you wanted a really heavy track, Gourd is the one for you. So we're going to move it into track number 11, which is Heavy is the Head That Falls with the Weight of an A. That was a mouthful, and I almost thought for sure I was going to screw it up, so I'm glad I didn't. But anyway, getting back to the track, I think much of the reason why I probably enjoy Broken Vision Rhythm, this one incorporates a lot of different elements and different kind of styles that they bring, that Loathe is known for, and kind of bringing different styles into like that metalcore vibe. But this one has blast beats. It has some really great dark undertones. I think it's drawing a lot of influence from like black metal, and just having this really, I guess, like almost saturated sort of sound where there's just like a bunch of like it just has this distorted wall guitar sound, which doesn't sound bad. It is just a literal wall of sound, and it's awesome. I think that also kind of drawing from that darker mood, I think it would make sense to have kind of more of a black metal influence to it. I think that to say that this song is heavy is an absolute understatement. I think the only track that may give this track a run for its money is maybe Red Room, but that was only like about a minute-ish of just heavy material. This is just full on heavy, stupid heavy, and it is ridiculous. I feel like none of the singles, in my opinion, get anywhere close to as heavy as this track. So I feel like a lot of people are in for a treat for this track for sure. I love Kadeem's screams on this track. I think this is the best that he sounds on this record so far. And just the way that they layer it, it just sounds super menacing. I think in this section 2 minutes and 45 to around the 3 minutes and 10 seconds, there's a gnarly breakdown, and I think just this one really sells the point home that they again draw from a bunch of different influences, but you know their home is with just heavy shit, and they rock it super hard. But I also feel like I also feel like they have a really good home in that sort of indie shoegaze vibe. And, you know, with tracks with like Two-Way Mirror and Is It Really You, I think those tracks highlight those moments as well. But getting back to the record, we're going to move into track number 12, A Sad Cartoon. This is, again, kind of digging more of that sort of shoegazy rock type of vibe. I would say more specifically in the intro portion of this track, as well as the first verse. Those feel the most indie and shoegazy to me. And I think overall it's a good example of how that they're able to incorporate a lot of melodic elements into a lot of their heavy music. It doesn't feel heavy as in like kind of like a metalcore track, but it just has definitely more of a like distorted rock or like metalcore kind of feel to it. Maybe post-hardcore I would give it a in that sort of vein. But I think that Kadeem shows and Eric show off a lot more of their singing prowess in a track like this, and it is really well executed. definitely, I feel like a lot of people's sleeper track, and I'm excited for everybody to listen to this one. So we're going to move into track number 13, which is A Sad Cartoon Reprise. This is a continuation of A Sad Cartoon, as if that was I feel like clearly evident in some way. But I think it's a beautiful kind of continuation of this track. I feel like with songs like that, when they have the kind of interlude sort of parts that bleed in from the previous track, I love how they would have kind of rounded it out or finished a track off. And I feel like with an interlude like this, it allows you to kind of feel the song for how I guess it was meant to be played out, but would have been too long if it was under one name. I don't know the thought process or structuring down to that. I guess they could have just kept it one long track and it would have made sense. But who knows? I wasn't in the studio with them. So we're going to move into the last track, the title track, track number 14. I let it in and it took everything. This is a phenomenal closer track. I think it brings a lot of elements of throughout this record. I think it has some very beautiful melodic moments where it's slow and just really kind of builds up to that point. But I think the really cool portion of this track is just how it kind of evolves over time. A lot of these tracks are like 5 minutes long, and I think that they're allowed to breathe and they're allowed to show their abilities as a song, and that's really cool. And I feel like a lot of bands maybe kind of cut their ideas short, and I feel like in a song like this and in a record like this, they're allowed to really take their time. It shows the expansiveness of what they're able to do, and I just like how it kind of slowly transitions into a heavy track, and then basically by the end it is just vocals, drums, and that kind of starts around the 3 minutes and 46-second mark to basically the end of the song. And I think it closes out super well. I really enjoyed this one. I think the way that it starts off melodic and kind of eventually becomes heavy is really well done. Some pros and cons that I have about this record. Pros, it is hella diverse. There's everything from indie to metalcore to fucking black metal to whatever you can think of. There's a little bit of soul and R&B. There's a little bit of electronic vibes. I feel like, obviously pulling from the alternative scene, there's just a whole mishmash of different genres that they pull from, and it doesn't feel like it's just like, what the hell's going on. It feels like they really thought it out. They really put it together well, and it doesn't seem like they rushed it. Their last full length was in 2017, so they had 3 solid years or less, probably, because it doesn't take 3 years to write a record. But they took definitely 2 years to write a record, and I think they really came out with something that is going to transcend this year. And I know that I'm kind of prefacing how I feel about this record, and if you already know, you know how I feel about it, but it's just so interesting. It was really refreshing to hear a band take some risk and take some chance. There are some tracks that are very much in that Loathe camp, very much in that lane, but I think once everybody listened to Two-Way Mirror, it kind of shifted their thought process of what this band could do and what they're capable of. So I'm very excited to see what they do next. Hopefully it's not as long for a record, but if it is that long for a record, I hope it comes out as good as this one, because this one easily album of the year contender. I know it is only February, but I really do truly feel like this is a record that will transcend this year, and I hope that they have massive success with this. But my overall rating for Loathe, I let it in and it took everything. I'm going to be giving it a 9.8 out of 10, basically perfect. If I could give it the perfect, I would. I just feel like that might be a little bit of a cop-out, even though I did sing a lot of praises about this record. I genuinely feel like it is deserved. I mean, like, literally, if Chino Moreno of Deftones is tweeting about this record, I feel like if he knows, like, you have to know. Like, it's just one of these records of this year that you shouldn't let fly under your radar. So go give this band a listen. All of the links are in the description. Go pre-order it. It comes out Friday. I'm, again, really excited to see where this band goes, and after this record, I I want to take a little bit of break from it, but at the same point, I know how good it is, and I'll probably keep it in my rotation for a while. But let me know in the comments what you think about it. I know it's not out yet, but let me know what you think about the singles so far. And when the record comes out, please come back to this record. I would seriously like to know what you think about it so far. And just get your thoughts about it. If you agree with me, if you disagree, I'd love to have that conversation in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this review, share it, like it, subscribe. It goes a long way. Thank you guys for the support. I think I hit 16,000 or 1,600. I don't want to say 16,000, but we'll get there. 1,600 subscribers. So I want to thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. If you're a new subscriber, thank you for subscribing. I know this is probably a pretty long video, so thank you for watching and sitting through the whole thing if you do. Just thank you guys so much. It really truly means a lot, more than you probably know. But new content, more content that comes, so keep your eyes peeled. And like I said, if you liked any of this, check it out. I really do appreciate it. My name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com, and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.